The United States quarter dollar from 1967 is a fascinating artifact from a turbulent and transitional period in American numismatic history, representing not only the steady evolution of U.S. coinage, but also serving as a reflection of unprecedented economic challenges and social shifts of the mid-20th century. Bearing the familiar obverse portrait of George Washington, originally sculpted by John Flanagan in 1932 to commemorate the bicentennial of Washington's birth, the 1967 quarter continues a tradition that solidified this coin as one of the most iconic circulating denominations in the United States. However, unlike pre-1965 quarters that were composed of 90% silver and 10% copper, a metallic standard that had persisted since the Coinage Act of 1792, the 1967 quarter belongs to the early generation of clad coinage, consisting of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This composition shift, initiated with the Coinage Act of 1965, was prompted by the skyrocketing price of silver due to global economic pressures, industrial demand, and widespread hoarding by the public, who recognized that silver coins were intrinsically worth more than their face value. In response, the United States Mint, under the direction of the Treasury Department, discontinued the production of mint marks for 1965, 1966, and 1967 quarters, deliberately removing the D and S identifiers to discourage speculative collection and allow coins to circulate more freely. As a result, all 1967 quarters are indistinguishable by mint location and are simply referred to as Philadelphia issues, even though additional off-site facilities assisted in production. With an enormous mintage of 1,524,031,848 pieces, the 1967 quarter is one of the most heavily produced coins in U.S. history, flooding the economy at a time when vending machines, payphones, laundromats, parking meters, and toll booths relied heavily on this denomination for everyday transactions. Although generally considered common and of low numismatic value in circulated condition, typically worth only face value, certain rare specimens exist in special mint sets, SMS, which replaced traditional proof sets between 1965 and 1967. These SMS quarters feature enhanced strikes, smoother surfaces, and in some exceptionally scarce cases, exhibit deep cameo frosting and mirror-like fields that can command significant prices among collectors, sometimes reaching hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on condition and certification. Physically, the coin weighs 5.67 grams, measures 24.3 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded edge of 119 grooves, and over time, circulation, where tends to dull its luster, revealing the reddish core along the edge where the copper is exposed, a telltale trait of clad coinage. While its design remained unchanged, retaining the Washington portrait on the obverse and the majestic eagle perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches on the reverse, the 1967 quarter silently marks the end of an era where coins held intrinsic bullion value and the beginning of a purely fiduciary coinage system based on trust rather than precious metal content. Historically, its production coincided with major events such as the Vietnam War, the rise of counterculture movements, and rapid industrial modernization, making this humble coin a subtle yet tangible witness to the social and economic transformation of America. Today, the 1967 quarter is not rare, but it is nostalgically significant, cherished by some as a relic from their childhood change jars or first allowance, and by numismatists as a milestone of monetary transition, a coin that no longer glitters with silver, yet gleams with history next top. The 1968 United States quarter dollar represents a fascinating turning point in American numismatic history, not simply as pocket change, but as a product of economic policy, evolving metal standards, minting technology, and collector culture in the post-silver era. Officially categorized as part of the Washington Quarter series, which began in 1932 to commemorate the bicentennial of George Washington's birth, the 1968 quarter belongs to the earlier, clad coinage generation that succeeded the traditional 90% silver alloy used from 1932 through 1964. In response to rising silver prices and increasing coin hoarding among the public, Congress passed the Coinage Act of 1965, eliminating silver from circulating dimes and quarters and reducing its content in half dollars. Thus, the 1968 quarter is composed of a copper-nickel-clad alloy, 75% copper and 25% nickel on the outer layers, bonded to a pure copper core, giving it a distinctive golden red edge when viewed from the side. With a diameter of 24.3 millimeters, thickness of 1.75 millimeters, and a standard weight of 5.67 grams, it retains the reeded edge and iconic obverse design featuring left-facing George Washington, sculpted by John Flanagan. Above Washington appears the word Liberty, while the national motto, "In God We Trust," rests slightly below and to the left of his profile, with the date 1968 centered at the base. The reverse continues to display the heraldic eagle, a bald eagle with wings outstretched, perched upon a bundle of arrows symbolizing military readiness, flanked by olive branches representing peace. The inscriptions "United States of America" arc along the top. E pluribus unum appears practically between the eagle's wings, and the denomination $quarter curves along the lower rim. A particularly important change reintroduced in 1968 was the return of mint marks to the obverse, just behind Washington's ponytail ribbon. From 1965 through 1967, no U.S. circulating coins bore mint marks due to federal efforts to discourage coin hoarding, but in 1968, marks resumed, making this issue historically distinctive. Coins struck at the Denver Mint bear a small d, while Philadelphia-produced business strikes have no mint mark, as was standard until 1980. Additionally, San Francisco issued proof coins exclusively for collectors, marked with an S, highly polished, mirror-like strikes sold in sealed government cases. In terms of mintage, Denver produced the overwhelming majority, striking over 101 million coins for circulation, while Philadelphia produced approximately 220 million, and San Francisco issued around 3 million proof coins, making the S proof variety notably scarcer. Because all 1968 quarters lack silver, most circulated examples today hold only face value unless in exceptional condition. However, high-grade uncirculated specimens, especially graded MS 67 or cameo deep mirror proofs, can command premiums among collectors. While rare error coins exist, such as off-center strikes, double dies, or proof strikes accidentally struck on silver planchets left over from previous years, most are extremely scarce and highly sought after. Culturally, the 1968 quarter circulated amidst turbulent times in the United States, the peak of the Vietnam War, the assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy, the civil rights movement, and the space race leading toward the 1969 moon landing. As such, this humble coin often passed through the hands of citizens during one of the most politically charged eras in modern history, unknowingly serving as a silent witness to both grief and progress. Its copper-nickel composition reflects America's pragmatic shift from tradition to modern efficiency, mirroring broader social transformations of the late 1960s. For historians, the 1968 quarter is more than a mere 25-cent piece. It is a symbol of economic adaptation, technological evolution, and enduring national identity, continuing to circulate quietly in vending machines, old piggy banks, and nostalgic coin jars across the country, often overlooked, yet deeply significant to those who understand its legacy. Next top. The United States $quarter minted in 1983 at the Denver Mint, identifiable by the D mint mark located just to the right of George Washington's ponytail on the obverse, holds a surprisingly important place in modern American numismatics despite being a circulating coin of seemingly ordinary appearance. To understand why the 1983 D Washington quarter matters, one must appreciate its historical context, mintage background, metal composition, scarcity and high grades, and collector demand. First, the Washington quarter design itself dates back to 1932, introduced to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington, replacing the earlier standing Liberty quarter. Sculpted by John Flanagan, the obverse features a left-facing portrait of Washington with the inscriptions "Liberty" above, "In God We Trust" to the left of the bust, and the date 1983 below. The reverse, unchanged since 1932 until its retirement in 1998, displays a majestic heraldic eagle perched atop a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath, symbolizing America's readiness for defense balanced by peace. Unlike modern quarters, which often feature rotating commemorative designs, the 1983 D quarter preserves this classic eagle reverse, tying it to over half a century of American coinage history. In terms of physical specifications, like most quarters minted between 1965 and 1998, the 1983 D quarter is struck in clad composition, a pure copper core layered between two sheets of copper nickel, 75% copper, 25% nickel, yielding a total weight of 5.67 grams, a diameter of 24.3 millimeters, and a reeded edge consisting of approximately 119 tiny grooves to deter counterfeiting and shaving of precious metal, though clad coins hold no silver content. Now, while over 617 million 1983 D quarters were minted, making it seem like a common circulating coin, its numismatic intrigue lies in the fact that 1982 and 1983 were the only 2 years in modern history when the U.S. Mint did not issue official mint sets or proof sets, meaning collectors in those years could not obtain specially made, well-struck examples directly from the mint. As a result, nearly all 1983 D quarters entered circulation, suffering the usual wear, scratches, and bag marks from daily commerce. This makes high-grade, uncirculated examples, especially those in mint state 65, MS 65, or higher, remarkably difficult to find today, far scarcer than one would expect given the high mintage. In fact, well-preserved 1983 D quarter certified by grading companies like PeaceGS or NGC can fetch $30 to $500 plus depending on condition, and ultra-gem specimens graded MS 67 or above are considered rare trophies, occasionally exceeding $1,000 at auction. Even more valuable are errors and varieties, such as off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, or struck-through debris coins, all of which can command premiums from error coin collectors. Another highly collectible niche is the 1983 D spitting eagle die variety, caused by a die crack extending from the eagle's beak to its breast, making it appear as though the eagle is spitting, a whimsical yet beloved anomaly. Well-defined versions of this variety often sell for $20 to $100 depending on condition. Some roll hunters and collectors even search bank-wrapped rolls hoping to find such gems. Furthermore, full strike details matter greatly, because circulation strikes from the Denver Mint in the early 1980s were sometimes weak, especially on Washington's hair curls or the eagle's breast and wings. Coins with sharp, crisp feather definition or strong luster are particularly desirable. Interestingly, while most business strike coins are readily available in worn VF or YEF grades for face value, original mint rolls or sealed bags of 1983 D quarters are extremely hard to locate today, since few were saved at the time. Beyond physical properties, the 1983 D quarter holds symbolic importance in American economic history, having circulated during the post-recession recovery of the early 1980s, when President Ronald Reagan was in office. Gas prices were stabilizing, and arcade machines, payphones, laundromats, and vending machines all operated heavily on quarters, making the Washington quarter one of the most culturally used coins of that era. For many Americans today, pocket change still occasionally yields 1983 D quarters, often worn but still functional, a testament to the durability of clad coinage. Yet, despite being common in worn condition, the 1983 D is widely regarded as a sleeper key date in high grade, meaning that while the casual observer sees it as ordinary, seasoned collectors know that pristine examples are elusive and worthwhile. As for investment potential, while standard circulated coins remain only worth face value, 25 cents, assembling a complete Washington quarter date and mint collection requires a 1983 D, and securing a true gem makes it a standout. Some numismatists even argue that if the Washington quarter series had traditional next top, the 1984 United States quarter dollar, minted at the Philadelphia Mint, is part of the long-running Washington quarter series, first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, The obverse features a left-facing portrait of George Washington, adapted from a 1786 bust by Jean-Antoine Houdon. Above Washington's head is the word Liberty, while the national motto, "In God We Trust," appears to the left of his chin. Beneath the bust lies the year of mintage, 1984, and, to the right side of the portrait, just behind Washington's ponytail, you'll find the P mint mark, indicating its production in Philadelphia. Interestingly, the Philadelphia Mint did not place mint marks on quarters until 1980, making the 1984 P one of the earlier years where the P appears. On the reverse, also designed by Flanagan, is a powerful heraldic eagle clutching a bundle of arrows, symbolizing military readiness, resting atop two laurel branches, representing peace. Encircling the top is United States of America, with the denomination quarter dollar at the bottom and E pluribus unum, out of many one, centered above the eagle's head. Like most modern quarters of its time, it is composed of a copper-nickel-clad alloy, specifically outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel surrounding a pure copper core, giving it its characteristic silver-gray appearance with a reddish edge when viewed from the side. Each coin weighs 5.67 grams, measures 24.3 millimeters in diameter, and has 119 reeded, grooved edges, which historically helped prevent clipping or shaving of precious metal, even though these later coins contain no silver. In total, 676,545,000 of these quarters were minted in Philadelphia in 1984, making it a common circulation coin. Most were used in everyday commerce during the early 1980s, an era defined by arcade machines, payphones, vending machines, and toll booths, all of which heavily relied on quarters. Economically, this was during the Reagan administration, a period of economic recovery, rising patriotism, and increasing consumer culture, so these coins passed through countless hands, from laundromats to newsstands to diners. While the average circulated 1984 P quarter is worth only face value, 25 cents, its collectible value increases under certain conditions. High-grade examples graded MS, 65 or higher, mint state, can fetch anywhere from $10 to $30, while superb examples graded MS, 67 or better may exceed $200 due to their rarity in pristine condition, as these coins were mass-produced without special handling. Collectors often seek full strike or full drumline examples, where the eagle's feathers and drumline details are sharply defined, as well as coins displaying min errors, such as off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, or die cracks, some of which can command $100 to several $100s, depending on the severity and visibility of the error. The 1984 P is not part of any special silver issue, nor was it released in proof format by Philadelphia. Proofs for that year were struck at San Francisco, mint mark, in mirror-like finishes for collectors. While the coin contains no precious metal, it carries historical and cultural value as part of America's transitional era, bridging the traditional eagle design that had been used since 1932 and the later statehood quarter redesigns of 1999. Today, the 1984 P. Washington quarter lives on not just as currency, but as a frozen moment in U.S. minting history, representing the durability of everyday coinage and the legacy of George Washington's profile, which has become one of the most recognizable images in American life. Whether found in pocket change, preserved in a coin folder, or graded in a collector's case, the 1984 P quarter remains a small but fascinating artifact of 20th century American commerce and identity. Next top. The 1986 United States quarter dollar, struck at the Denver Mint and designated by the small d mint mark on the obverse, just to the right of Washington's hair ribbon, represents an important installment in the long-running Washington Quarter series, which began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Composed of a copper-nickel-clad alloy, specifically an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel over a pure copper core, this quarter weighs 5.67 grams and measures 24.3 millimeters in diameter, with a reeded edge. Features which have remained standard for circulating quarters since the removal of silver from U.S. coinage in 1965 due to rising bullion prices. The obverse of the 1986 D-quarter features the iconic left-facing bust of George Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan, based loosely on a 1786 bust by Jean-Antoine Houdon. Surrounding Washington's portrait are the inscriptions Liberty at the top and In God We Trust to the left, while the date, 1986, rests at the bottom along the rim. The reverse showcases a majestic bald eagle, wings spread in a heraldic pose, clutching a bundle of arrows, symbolizing military readiness, while two olive branches below represent peace. Above the eagle arcs the legend, United States of America, with the denomination $quarter at the bottom and the national motto, E pluribus unum, Latin for out of many, one, placed neatly between the eagle's outstretched wings. In terms of production, the Denver Mint struck an impressive 504,298,660 examples of the 1986 D-quarter, marking it as a common circulation coin rather than a rarity. Most examples entered the everyday economy and saw regular use in vending machines, toll booths, and pocket change transactions throughout the late 1980s and 1990s, meaning that circulated specimens today typically hold only face value unless they are in exceptionally high condition. However, for coin collectors, especially those seeking mint state, uncirculated grades, the 1986 D-quarter becomes more interesting. Specimens graded MS, 65 or higher by professional coin grading services like PCGS or NGC can fetch a modest premium, typically ranging from $5 to $20, with truly gem-quality MS, 67 or MS. 68 examples commanding significantly more due to their rarity in pristine form. Key factors that determine desirability include the sharpness of the strike, the absence of contact marks or bag scratches, and the presence of a strong cartwheel luster that reflects light in radial bands when tilted. Some collectors specifically look for full strike or full drum lines, designations on the eagle's tail feathers and wings, which indicate exceptional clarity in areas that often strike weakly. Although no widely recognized major mint errors are associated with the 1986 D-quarter, minor die cracks, off-center strikes, or clipped planchet errors do occasionally surface and can be of interest to specialists. Historically, the mid-1980s represented a transitional time for U.S. coinage, while commemorative coins were slowly re-entering circulation through programs like the 1982 Washington half dollar and the 1986 Statue of Liberty dollar. Circulating coin designs remained largely static, making coins like the 1986 D Washington quarter symbolic of the final years before the statehood quarter program of 1999 to 2008 dramatically reshaped America's coin landscape. As such, the 1986 D-quarter stands as a snapshot of traditional U.S. coinage, representing a time when the eagle reverse, used since 1932, was still the norm in every American's pocket. Whether found today in change or preserved in a collector's album, the 1986 D. Washington quarter remains an enduring tribute to both American history and numismatic craftsmanship. Next top. The United States quarter dollar of 1988 bearing the D. Mint mark is a representative yet historically rich example of late 20th century American coinage, produced during a transitional era just before major design changes were introduced in the 1990s. Struck at the Denver Mint, one of the primary facilities of the U.S. Mint system located in Colorado, the 1988 D-quarter belongs to the long-running Washington Quarter series, first issued in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the birth of George Washington, the first president of the United States. Composed of a copper-nickel-clad alloy introduced in 1965 to replace the 90% silver composition used in earlier years, the 1988 D-quarter weighs 5.67 grams, measures 24.3 millimeters in diameter, and features a reeded edge consisting of 119 grooves. The obverse front of the coin displays the familiar bust of George Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan based on Jean-Antoine Houdon's neoclassical portrait. Above Washington's head appears the word Liberty, while the national motto, In God We Trust, rests to the left, and the D. Mint mark is located just right of Washington's ponytail. The reverse back continues to depict the heraldic eagle with wings spread wide, clutching a bundle of arrows in its talons, symbolizing strength and readiness, while two olive branches positioned beneath represent the desire for peace. The words United States of America arc along the top, while E pluribus unum, Latin for out of many one, appears above the eagle, and the denomination quarter dollar is shown at the bottom. In terms of production volume, the 1988 D quarter had an extremely high mintage of approximately 596 million coins, making it widely circulated and common in everyday commerce even decades later. As such, most surviving examples found in pocket change today are only worth face value, though uncirculated examples, especially those preserved in mint state, MS 65 condition or higher, can fetch modest premiums among collectors, typically ranging from $3 to $20, with exceptionally pristine examples or high-grade certified specimens commanding even higher prices. Unlike certain other Washington quarters, the 1988 D does not contain any widely recognized major mint errors, but off-center strikes, broad strikes, and die cracks are occasionally found and can be worth significantly more depending on severity and collector demand. Though visually simple compared to the state quarter series that would launch in 1999 and revolutionize public interest in coin collecting, the 1988 D quarter stands as a snapshot of premillennial American currency, durable, functional, and emblematic of national identity through consistent symbolism rather than constant novelty. While many people rarely stop to admire such a common coin, each bears the legacy of federal minting practices, artistic tradition, and economic utility. Even in its ordinariness, the 1988 D quarter reflects the story of American stability during the tail end of the Reagan era, when inflation was stabilizing, vending machines still relied heavily on coins rather than digital payments, and the average citizen would handle dozens of quarters daily without a second thought. Whether stored in a collection album, sealed in a graded plastic slab, or rattling in a kitchen drawer, the 1988 D remains a small but enduring emblem of American history, circulating through millions of hands while silently preserving the portrait of the founding father whose image has become synonymous with trust, commerce, and continuity in United States currency.